I'm Scott Crabill, managing partner here at Thoma Bravo. Today on Behind the Deal, we'll unpack the details of our acquisition of Imprivata with insights from the CEO, Fran Rosch. Welcome, Fran. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Scott.
Lucky to have you in studio. We have a board meeting this afternoon, so this worked out very well from a timing perspective.
Absolutely. It's great to be in San Francisco and great to be in the Thoma Bravo offices.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have one of our great leaders in the portfolio of one of my favorite companies, Imprivata. So excited to get into it.
Great.
I think it'd be great for you to kind of walk us through your background and maybe talk a little bit about ForgeRock and your experience there and how that business came together with Ping.
Great. Well, Scott, thanks so much for having me. And I guess my background is summarized with about 25 years in cybersecurity and identity. So worked for some big companies like VeriSign and Symantec, a lot of different roles in cybersecurity and identity during that time. And then had a great experience with ForgeRock. And it was really made me realize how critical digital identity is in an ecosystem. And we think of it very much as security, right? Because it's making sure that the right person has access. But it's not just security. It's really a lot about usability and experience and access. And so when I ended up leaving ForgeRock, when Thoma Bravo acquired ForgeRock and decided to put together with Ping to kind of create an incredibly strong enterprise identity access management company, I just felt like the job is not over. Identity still feels kind of broken to me. I mean, who likes to create another username and password and go through another MFA or password reset? And so, Imprivata was there. It has an incredible mission around making access simple and safe. So kind of built on my background, but an opportunity to do something different.
Let's talk a little bit about how you came to Imprivata, how you came to be the CEO of Imprivata. We usually, when we're hiring a CEO of an existing company or a new company, there are two ways we usually find them. One is maybe they've been an executive at a former Thoma Bravo portfolio company. We worked with them as CEO in the past, or we go out, hire a recruiter, and canvass the world and try to source leaders that way and interview folks that we don't necessarily know yet. Try to figure out who's going to be good. But how did it work for you? It worked a little different for you.
Yeah, a little different, kind of in between. So I was with ForgeRock for about 5 years. And we went IPO in September of, it was 21, September 21. Very good time to go IPO, a lot of excitement. But before we went IPO, we did talk to some sponsor companies, and we ended up talking to Thoma Bravo at that time. So I got to know some of the team, Seth and Andrew and the team. And then when the board decided to potentially explore other alternatives, about a year after IPO, we kind of re-engaged with some of those conversations. So it was a kind of a building relationship. It was kind of a really long interview process. And so when we finally did close that deal, it seemed natural to stay with Thoma Bravo, and I appreciate the opportunity. And just really enjoying my time at Imprivata.
That worked out well for us. We got a bit of a 2-for-1, a great company to merge into Ping and a fantastic CEO to come lead Imprivata at the right time for Imprivata.
Thank you.
So we had owned the business 7 years by the time you joined the company, and we've been through a number of different value creation strategies, value creation processes. The company was about $150 million in revenue when we bought it, about $400 million when you joined the business. Mm-hmm. How did you kind of come in and spend your first couple of months figuring out the company and the strategy and the direction that you wanted to take the business in? What was that process like for you?
Yeah, so I'm really kind of a process-oriented person. So it was a very deliberate process, and it was a 100-day plan. And it was kind of broken into 3 components: a listening, an ideation, and kind of decision-making and execution. And it was a plan that I shared with the board. My first meeting, it was a plan I shared very transparently with the company. It was a plan I shared with our customers. And so I spent the first 30 days trying to keep my mouth shut and just talk to a lot of different people, a lot of employees, a lot of customers, some partners, some industry analysts to really understand the strengths of the company that we wanted to build on and some challenges that we had that we really needed to face. And then we went into ideation phase. And that was in February of last year. And we just kind of locked ourselves in a conference room then and with a group of about 10 to 12 of, I thought, the brightest people, a lot of product and technology people, because I think at our heart, that's who we are, and just started, hammering out, like, what should we double down on and do more of? What should we back off of? How do we want to invest our dollars for maximum return? And went through a pretty rigorous ideation phase where everybody was encouraged to challenge. And then it was pretty clear by the end of February, we kind of coalesced on what the adjusted strategy should be. And then we kind of moved into comms. Okay, how are we going to communicate this? How are we going to execute it? Share it with the board really through March. So it was this very deliberate process. And I think it put us off on a good foot then to continue on our path today.
Fantastic. Let's talk about a few aspects of that plan. And one interesting aspect is we bought the business in 2016, and the company was really strong in that single sign-on product. Mm-hmm. That was their core product. Mm-hmm. And they had about 4 or 5 other products. They had a multi-factor authentication for controlled substances. They had a patient identification mm-hmm. product, a secure texting product. They were focused on cross-selling into the base. And part of our strategy over 6-7 years was to acquire other companies mm-hmm. that were selling products into the security products into the hospital space to really give more of a cross-sell opportunity for the business. And that worked well for us. But you came in and had the thought of, that's great that we have all this stuff to sell, but it's almost too many balls to juggle at one time. And how do we really drill down and focus on what the biggest opportunities are for the company? How did you think about that product strategy?
It's amazing what a strong foundation we have at Imprivata. So when it comes to clinicians, doctors, nurses, other technicians within a hospital, they have to be able to access critical health systems very quickly and very securely. And they live in a world of what we call shared devices, where you and I, we start a new job, we get a computer given to us, we're the only one who uses that computer. It's got its own set of challenges, but in a hospital, you could have dozens, 50, 60 people a day use that same computer. So it's fast user switching. It creates a lot of really technology challenges. And Imprivata, years ago, around 2010, 2012, decided to really focus on solving that unique problem. They did an incredibly great job with our One Sign or EAM product. And that creates an incredible foundation for the company. Somewhat the challenge now is we're in over 90% of all U.S. healthcare hospitals, provider networks. So we've done a really great job penetrating that. So if we're going to continue growth, we have to look at what are the growth levers beyond that. So we're, again, incredibly strong foundation, high retention, right? We continue to add value with more price increases, but we need to open up more opportunities. And you're right, there were almost too many things going on in Imprivata. There were 8 or 10 different products that people were kind of trying to cross-sell. We were trying to expand to new markets. We're trying to get different geographies, different commercial markets. There was manufacturing, there was retail, there was airlines, there was everything. So we really said, what are the 3 or 4 kind of strongest levers we have for that growth? And we identified those and really where we're going to double down, because there was just too much noise for the sales team, too much noise for our customers. And then there was too much mediocrity because we were spreading our resources, too thinly. So it was really the foundation of our strategy is to recognize the incredible foundation we have with our EAM product. What are the 3 other products that we think are most likely we can cross-sell in? What are the new markets we want to expand in? And just maniacally execute on those versus trying to do too many things.
Great. So let's talk about a few of those things. One, just on the product side, the mobile technology. We talked a little bit about ground control being an acquisition that we made, and mobile provisioning and mobile device management. And that seemed to be a really big opportunity for us going forward. How do you think about that opportunity for the company?
Absolutely, a huge opportunity. When you think about it, our mission as a company is to make it simple and safe for users to access the critical information they need to do their services. And for decades in healthcare, that's meant doctors and nurses typically accessing PCs, right? So that was really what we really focused on. But what we know is that the ecosystem is quickly changing within the the healthcare provider networks, and everything's going mobile, right? No surprise. And so we've got to have the same level of frictionless and secure access to mobile devices that we do today with PCs, and we actually now have Macs as well. So it's really everything a clinician needs to access their work. So whether they're working on iOS or Android, whether they're using Epic or Oracle Cerner or Meditech or any of the other dozens of EHRs that are out there in the world, we've got to make that really simple and safe. So mobile's a huge growth driver for us. Only about 13% of our customers today are using Imprivata to help them manage those mobile devices. And the way that kind of works is a nurse, when he or she starts their shift, they have to go and check out a device. So they can just go up to kind of what we call a docking station. They get all the access to the applications and services they need to do that healthcare. So it's a very simple and easy way, but it also helps control the security and access to the devices. We also see even expansion beyond there into mobile devices, medical devices, excuse me. We think of all of the equipment, whether it be MRI machines or drug distribution equipment within a hospital, vital signs machines, all those you need to know who's using those devices at any particular time as well. And so we think there's a lot of opportunity as we stay focused on that clinician and all the different devices and all the different applications and services they use. So it's a huge growth opportunity, mobile kind of being the leading element of that. But it fits into that broader mission that we have as a company.
Well, Fran, you brought great focus to that mobile opportunity, which I think is really exciting for the company. You also mentioned earlier geographic expansion as a possibility, and Imprivata has really been built in the U.S. There's been so much opportunity in the U.S. I think it represents maybe 80% of our revenue, and we have lots of companies in the portfolio where it's only 50%. So there must be lots of opportunity internationally, but of course we can't do it all at once. And you've been doing some work on that and have some interesting ideas as to where we might be able to focus internationally. Yes. You want to talk about that?
Yes. When you think about healthcare, and Imprivata is over 90% in healthcare, we do have some other verticals we can talk about as well. But when you think about healthcare, it's really, the challenges that our healthcare system has in the U.S. are not that much different than any other organizations have around the world. Doctors and nurses and technicians just want to provide great patient care, but they're required to use more and more technology today to do that. That's just the way that the world is going. And they're not always very happy about it. There are challenges with clinician burnout, because they feel like that technology can become a barrier between them and their patient. So at Imprivata, we have just such an important mission to kind of remove that friction and make the technology kind of easier for them to use. And so that's a challenge that is a global challenge, not just a U.S. challenge. So the NHS in the U.K. Has been a really strong proponent of Imprivata. We have a lot of the organization there is using Imprivata. Germany passed some funding incentives over the past couple of years to encourage their hospital systems to more aggressively adopt digital approaches to healthcare. And so there were some funding mechanisms that's really accelerated things in Germany. But, the Nordic, Spain, the Western European, like most U.S. companies start, has been a real big growth area for us. Australia and New Zealand is another, kind of typical growth area. I'm personally quite interested in looking at the opportunities that we might have in Japan. It's still early days for us. Yep. But it's interesting. I think we have about 340 million people in the U.S., and there are about 145 million people in Japan. But they have 70% of the hospital beds that we have. So just a much higher proponent. And they are struggling with healthcare, clinician burnout, having enough doctors in the system. So if we can help drive more productivity, that's a good thing. So we're doing some investigation over there, spending some time on the ground in Japan to see. But I think international growth will certainly be a big driver for Imprivata over the next couple of years.
That sounds like a great opportunity. And then what about other verticals? I know we've been focused on healthcare. What is it about the healthcare vertical that makes it the right space for Imprivata? And are there other verticals out there that exhibit similar characteristics that we could sell into?
Yeah, one of the challenges that we had to create some really unique IP around is this shared device, fast user switching ecosystem. So there are other industries that have similar dynamics. So given our size, if we can take 80% of what we have, 90% of what we have in a product and move it over to another vertical, that's great. And so we've identified some of those. Manufacturing, when you think about the manufacturing floor, you can have a lot of kind of kiosk shared devices where you could have different, manufacturing employees have to badge in and badge out constantly to get onto that equipment. Airlines now a lot of times are requiring, whether it be pilots or flight attendants, to check out a mobile device and return it at the end of that flight or at the end of that shift. Retail, more and more when you go into a retail, it's about people walking up to you with a handheld device, which they're using to access inventory and payment systems. And then they hand that device off to another person. So it's that kind of shared device ecosystem where our unique IP around fast user switching and security. So we're looking at those opportunities to expand there.
Excellent. Let's touch just briefly on the technology aspect of it. Again, back to hospitals, which is the main focus of the company. They tend to be a little bit slower in adopting new technologies. A lot of the software is still on-prem and or on premise, on site, and many other industries have gone to the cloud. What are you seeing in terms of technology adoption, even with artificial intelligence? Where's the healthcare market going from a technology perspective?
It's a big question. So I may go a couple different directions, and you can bring me back. I think that, let me take the cloud element first, and then maybe we could take the AI. I think that healthcare, like a lot of other industries, I think, is saying we want to go to the cloud when it makes sense for us to go to the cloud. And if they have applications and services that run very effectively within their application stack, whether that's on-prem or in the public cloud of their choice, they're okay with that. And they're very, I think, resistant to do work just for work's sake. They really want to see the value of making that change. But they also see there's so many benefits in SaaS, in cloud delivered services. And so where it makes sense, you get faster innovation delivered through cloud services. That makes a lot of sense to them. So how that ends up showing up for Imprivata, there's part of our core access management capability that runs on-prem. And they're very happy with that. They've tuned it to the types of SLAs that they have. It works incredibly well. But we also now connect that back to our cloud. And we can create new products and services, especially around data, where we can analyze data or provide more functionality from the cloud. So it ends up being kind of a hybrid environment, which is, I feel, kind of where healthcare is going with that respect to cloud.
Excellent.
On AI, it's a fascinating time in healthcare, and something kind of completely generally unrelated to Imprivata is really around ambient listening is the most exciting thing that we hear in healthcare right now, where so often the clinicians don't feel like technology works for them, works against them. It's a barrier. But ambient listening is a very exciting element for them where they can be able to have a conversation with the patient and look at the patient instead of a computer and have someone be able to take those notes and then summarize those notes in a very meaningful way. So there's a lot of energy around AI and ambient listening within healthcare. So that will be great to see how that develops. From an Imprivata standpoint, we've always felt that making access management decisions should not be black and white. It shouldn't be, well, everybody's got to have multi-factor authentication at this point. Or it should be about collecting signals of user and device behavior and be able to make a risk-based decision on access. And that is a lot about collecting data, analyzing data, leveraging machine learning and AI to be able to make a risk score, and then to be able to provide the appropriate level of security and access based on that. So we're heavily invested in our data science team and bringing what's considered a kind of a UEBA approach to access management. And that's something we're really excited about.
Well, we are really excited about the leadership that you brought to Imprivata, the energy you brought, the strategic direction that you've now set for the company. My last question is, you have some incredible ambitions from a technology perspective, a product perspective, a growth perspective, geographic expansion, vertical expansion. to get all that done, having the right team on the field and the right leadership team in place is super important. How did you, over the last year, think about the leadership team at Imprivata and making sure that you have the right people in the right place for the next 4 or 5 years that really have the capacity, energy, enthusiasm, and want to make all this a reality?
Yeah. Well, I'd say joining Imprivata, the culture has been incredible. People are so open to change, which you don't always get, right? Especially when a company's been successful. People can say, well, it always worked. Why don't we just keep doing the same thing? But Imprivata is really open to change. And like any leader, you assess everybody. Everybody's basically interviewing for that job for the first couple of months. And there were some incredible rock stars within Imprivata. We have a chief medical officer, Dr. Sean Kelly. When I joined the company, I'm like, we have a chief medical officer? What's that all about? But he's incredible. The passion he has for our company and our customers, the enthusiasm he brings to everything. It's like, how do we take that type of person and nurture and give them more opportunities? But there were certainly other areas that we felt there could be new ideas brought into the company. So we kind of went through a person-by-person analysis and tried to identify those rock stars that we could nurture and be part of the next generation and then complement them with some new blood. And we're done. It takes about a year to do that, I find. But we have the Imprivata team in place for the future, and we're deep into execution mode.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining. This has been awesome.
Pleasure.
Thanks to Fran for sitting down with us today. To learn more about Imprivata, check out imprivata.com. Fran is also going to join me on next week's episode of Beyond the Deal, our mini-series where we get to ask him anything. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to Thoma Bravo's Behind the Deal wherever you get your podcasts.